Okay, it says we're live. So, hi everyone in the stream and welcome Olivia. Hi Liv.
Hey, Jess.
So, everyone in the chat and in the stream, if you don't know, Liv and I actually went to elementary school, also to high school together, and then we went our separate ways in university. However, she rerouted and then decided to study engineering. So that's how we find ourselves again, like in the same circle. So everyone is saying hello. Like everyone is saying hi, 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 hi. So welcome, Liv.
Thanks. We've been reunited on the internet.
Yeah. So Liv, or should I call you Liv or Olivia? I've always called you Liv, so I'm just going to keep calling
you Liv.
So as everyone could see in the thumbnail, she's an ice cream engineer slash chemical engineer slash mechanical engineer slash process engineer. So a lot of people are probably confused about that because I know I get this question a lot. It's like, oh, if you want to study this thing, you have to be a mechanical engineer. If you want to study this thing, you have to be a chemical engineer, et cetera, et cetera. But your story is completely different to that. So can you explain if that's right or if that's wrong?
Definitely. So yes, ice cream engineer slash mechanical engineer slash chemical engineer slash what I really call myself is a process engineer because it really meets everything in the middle. So I guess I will start at the beginning that when we graduated high school, I actually originally went to university for science. I wanted to do a Bachelor of Science. Kind of a side story, I'd never been told to go into engineering, never been advised, even though I took like all of the maths in advance. Like I took grade 12 math in grade 11, as you would remember. Mm-hmm. And we took Mr. Aiken's physics class together and chem and bio and everything. But no one actually really told me to go into engineering. So I was like, okay, like I like science. I like Grey's Anatomy. I could probably be a doctor. So I went into science, and it wasn't until I had a prof in chemistry and we were talking about thermodynamics. And she's like, oh, this is what chemical engineers do. And I was like, I could do this. I like this stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I started to look into a little bit more, and I found that it wasn't too difficult to make the switch to engineering. Granted, I went to Western University in London, and in first year, the engineers did take more course credits than the science students, so I did have to take an extra year and catch up to my fellow engineering students. But in the end, I did make the switch. I switched into a general engineering stream and then ended up going into chemical engineering. So that is part one of the long career history that isn't actually that long. So I did a 4-year undergrad in chemical engineering, really loved it, like loved processing and kind of the idea of how things come together, because that's really what chemical engineering is.
Yeah.
So there's a portion that looks like chemistry, but to be honest, like my chemistry courses ended in second year. Mm-hmm. And then from there on, it's really like processing and heat transfer and thermodynamics. And it's like, how are you going to get stuff from A to B? So I graduated with a degree in chemical engineering, and then I joined a mechanical engineering firm. And the firm that I currently work at, that I'm actually at right now, we do mechanical engineering and process engineering for the food manufacturing industry.
Yeah.
So I tend to do a lot of work on food and a lot of work on ice cream, which is how ice cream engineering comes into the picture.
Okay.
So I think that is a pretty brief summary of everything.
And a sweet job. I just stole your pun.
My joke. Thanks.
But it's crazy that, I never had anyone advise me either in high school. Like, and then it makes you think, were our teachers just dumb? Or like, were they not advising anyone to go into engineering? Or like, I don't know. I've never heard from any of our teachers. Like, neither of them advised us to go into engineering.
Yep.
And
we both ended up going into it. And actually a number of people that we went to high school with got engineering degrees, but it's never something that I really heard about, right?
Yeah, me neither. It's sort of like there should be better exposure to all sorts of science degrees in high school because, I mean, from our perspective, we sort of were only exposed to the idea like, oh, you can be a mathematician because that's what math class is about, or you can be a physicist because that's what physics class is about. But what about like even environmental science, or like sort of like environmental policy, or tons of all of these different sort of science like related careers? Like I never heard about any of those in school.
No, totally. And you don't even realize, I guess, until you're into it, at least this is how I felt, that once you get into either, say, engineering or science, then, like, the blindfolds come off and you're like, wow, all these things are science and all these things are engineering. And I had no concept of that before I got to school. So I completely agree with you.
Yeah. And you know what I think is cool about your journey is that you went in, I guess, sort of with an open mind, because, I mean, you were in sciences, but then when you were there, you were able to pivot, and you had to make a sacrifice. You had to stay 1 year longer, but, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you're going to have your whole life to work. So what is one more year in school? So
yeah, nothing.
Exactly. So, I mean, on the one hand, like, what a lot of students are afraid of is, like, they're in high school, they have a lot of pressure to figure out what they want to do. They're like, oh my goodness, I want to be an engineer, but I really want to do this type of engineering, and I don't know, like, what sort of classes I'm supposed to take, like, what kind of engineering is that, blah, blah, blah. Whereas you're the perfect example. You, like, show up, you're like, lay it on me, give me all of the courses. You're like, okay, thermo seems cool. Then you have no idea which, like, degree is thermo, but you end up in chemical engineering, and now you're working with ice cream as a mechanical/process engineer. And you can always pivot, because I know you were saying that you did an internship in chemical engineering. So
I did.
Yeah, so that's what I always try to remind my audience, is that you can always pivot, and there's always, like, there's never these boxes for engineers. Like, there's always crossover, and you're the perfect example of that.
Thanks, Jess.
So,
like we were talking before the call, like, engineering is this wonderful thing, and science in general, because I know you don't just tailor to engineering, you tailor to all of the STEM fields. It's a great degree to have that really you can do anything afterwards. Like, it's not really just the technical aspect that you're learning, although that is important. Really, it's the mindset and the way you're taught to think about the world, and then you take that and you're like, I really like this thing over there, and then you go in that direction.
Yeah, exactly. So someone in the chat, Marlienia, has a question, and, like, maybe it's a very simple answer, or maybe you have more details, but she wants to know, how do you get into a mechanical engineering firm with a chemical engineering degree? So did you have to, like, have sort of mechanical classes, or did they really not care about sort of your title?
With the firm that I worked at, I actually found that they didn't really care. Because the classes that I took as a chemical engineering student and what the mechanical engineering student took were actually very similar. We both took heat transfer, we both took thermodynamics, we both took calc, and the firm that I work at, their mindset was really like, okay, we want you to come in with this base level knowledge. We know that from a practical application perspective, we're going to have to teach you things no matter what. Because although we all learn the base level in engineering undergrad, but it's not like we've really learned like the particular applications of it. Like in our design projects, like I applied some stuff, but the amount of stuff that I know now compared to what I knew in fourth year, even like how a pump works, or how do you like design a heat exchanger, or how to size the heat exchanger, like those things seem like stuff that you cover in school, but you cover them in like 100 times more depth here. So from my employer's perspective, they knew that, they accepted that, they were more looking for someone who was eager to learn, who was excited about the topic, who was interested, and did have the capability to learn, and like the willingness to acquire that knowledge. So maybe they were looking more so on the softer side, which just goes to show that that side of it is important as well.
And I find that for jobs that aren't specifically like R&D on a particular topic, generally they're looking for people that are very flexible, or I think a better word is adaptable. Like, they want to know that you have the tools and that, like, you did this degree and you did all of these projects and, like, you're able to solve a problem. And now that you have that toolbox, which is just your degree, and if you're like exactly like you said, you want to learn and you're enthusiastic about the project, then for them the most important thing is that, like, you're willing to adapt to the situation. I think adaptability is a really highly regarded skill set for especially new engineers.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. So I wanted to go back to why you decided, like, how was it that you decided to go specifically into chemical engineering? Was it because you were like, I like thermo? Because thermo, as like, I love thermo and I'm in mechanical engineering. So why did you choose to go into chemical engineering?
Well, funny story. There's actually some debate there as well. So why I chose engineering in the first place. So like the thermo kind of tweaked my interest for sure. And then the more I looked into it, the more I realized the capability of building things and actually making stuff with the research that scientists were doing. Like the research that, let's call it like the pure sciences are doing, super important. But I didn't really think that was for me. And I saw myself more as someone who could take that and then apply it to a problem. Basically, it's problem solving, right? Mm-hmm. So at Western, there's a general first year program. And because I needed to catch up on classes, I didn't declare a major right away because I essentially went back to first year. And then I actually really found that I loved programming. Like that was an awesome class for me. I loved statics, like structures essentially, like the civil engineering course. And I didn't actually take chemistry that year because normally first year engineering you would take chemistry, but because I had already taken a full year, I didn't need to repeat it. So actually after my first year of engineering, which would have been my second year of school, it was a toss-up between civil engineering and software engineering for me. And I had considered mechanical engineering, but I wasn't sure. And I actually ended up declaring for civil engineering. And it wasn't until the August before I went back to school that I was like, you know what, I started to think about it. And I really did like the idea of like process. I've always loved the show How It's Made, which we can get into later if you want to talk more about work, because that's like my job now and it's really great. And that's how I ended up going back into chemical. So as you can see, again, like flexibility and keeping your mind open to what could be down the road.
Yeah. Okay, but then on the but then I'm thinking on the other hand, why was it so important for you to switch from civil engineering to chemical engineering? What did chemical engineering give you that civil engineering wouldn't?
I really liked the flexibility of a process. For me, what intrigued me about chemical engineering was the fact that you could apply it to so many different industries. Like you have chemical in energy, be it like oil and gas or solar or nuclear. Like that's a stream that you can go into. Or you have manufacturing that you can apply chemical and it's more of a process. So you could do food manufacturing or chemical manufacturing or you name it. And I saw that there was a lot more options, and I could see that I didn't really know which option I wanted to pursue when I picked it, but I knew that if I went into chemical, I would have, at least I thought that I would have a broader field to pick from down the road, and to me that appealed a lot.
Okay, and so now we're speaking of like the different types of chemical engineering. Can you give us a brief overview of maybe the different disciplines within chemical engineering? I think that would be really cool to learn. Yeah,
sure. Are you thinking in terms of industry or more in terms of school?
I guess at least in mechanical, it's sort of grouped into like you have control systems, and that is sort of, it's not an industry, but it's like this application can be applied to a lot of different industries, but it's separated as like fluid dynamics, combustion, control systems. So is there something similar in chemical engineering?
I would definitely say there is. Because I don't have a master's degree in my selected discipline like you do, I don't know if I could go into as much detail as you could on the specific groupings. But I would say in terms of like industries that are possible in different subdisciplines. At least at Western, we had more of like a biochemical field, and then you had your pure chemical.
Okay.
And a lot of people think of pure chemical as like oil and gas and energy. I might slot manufacturing in there, but as you can tell from my current position, like manufacturing is such a combination of different things. I mean, I work with electrical engineers now, and programmers and robotics, and there's maybe that one's more of a mashup of everyone.
Okay.
And then under like the biochemical, you might find like pharmaceutical and drug manufacturing. You might find biomedical, where you would do, like even at Western, you can do like a biomedical master's degree, and you might end up doing tissue engineering or things more along the medical field line.
Mm-hmm. Someone just asked, do chemical engineers also work in makeup? And I thought, oh yeah, that's another industry.
Actually, I have a friend who works at, or who had a job at Nude Sticks, and they were, I mean, you can find them at Sephora. I don't know, I think they're global by now. But yeah, she worked for a makeup company.
That's cool.
Yeah,
so,
I've also met someone who works at L'Oreal. So yeah, totally like across the board, you can find chemical engineers in a ton of different places.
Yeah, and I know L'Oreal also has like a women in chemical engineering scholarship, I think, that they give out every year, which is also really cool. So then you mentioned that you went straight into industry as opposed to getting a master's. So I wanted to know, because a lot of people also have this dilemma, why did you decide to go into industry? Did you find that you didn't need a master's for what you wanted to do? Or is it just, this was just sort of like the logical next step? Or did you not really think about it and you had the opportunity? Why did you decide to go straight into industry?
So, like you mentioned earlier, I did do an internship. I did an internship between my 4th and 5th year of engineering to kind of test that out, really to see if I wanted to go into industry or if I wanted to do a master's. And then to couple that, I also did a thesis in my undergrad. So I kind of tested the waters for both to see if I wanted to do a project and continue that thesis in a master's, or during my internship, I tested the waters. Okay, do I like working? Is this what I want to do right now? Do I want to be in a place where I'm applying the skills in, and not that you're not applying in a master's, but I guess in a master's, at least with my thesis, I was doing more research, whereas at work, I was taking it and applying it to the problems that the company was having.
Yeah.
And for me, I liked the industry, so it might have been a natural next step. Not to say that I didn't like my research, but I think industry was a better fit for what I wanted to do.
Yeah, and also when you do one thing and you know you sort of like it or you don't like it, like generally you can figure out if the other thing's for you if you just do it. Like that's what I liked my research, and then I thought, okay, I'll give industry a shot, and then I went. And now I'm like, okay, I know I like research.
Yeah, totally. So you just like test the waters and you're like, okay, this is good. I like this.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people are also worried, like, oh, I don't know what I want to do. It's like, yeah, of course you don't know. Like, until you try, you're not going to know. And I don't have the answers. So, I mean, people, I think, really hope I do when they message me. And I'm like, you just got to try yourself. Okay, wait. I already forgot what I was going to say. Oh, no, I remember. So...
I was going to say, Jess, you've been doing so good.
Thank you. Super surprising. This never happens. You can ask everyone in the chat. So I'm really curious. I don't know. Obviously, you can't talk about everything at your job. But I am curious to know, what is it like to work as a process engineer? And also, you know, like you can throw in something about ice cream in there if you...
Absolutely, I can.
Okay.
I love it. So I work for a consultant firm, which means that we go into a bunch of different manufacturing facilities and we'll give our advice and our design input on any changes that they want to make. So it might be that they're introducing a new product, or maybe they want a part of their manufacturing line, usually to do with their actual product. So in the case of ice cream, it would be ice cream. Maybe they want something to work differently, or maybe they want to add something. Maybe they want to add a chocolate swirl in the ice cream.
Okay.
then we would go in and we would actually figure out like the physics of how that would happen. So really it's a problem of fluid dynamics. It's just fluid dynamics with a really tasty substance.
Wow, nice. So, I mean, did you always work like with ice cream companies? Or I thought I remembered last year you said something like you were working with other companies too, or is it always been ice cream? Oh, okay.
We've done work for, well, my company has done work for a lot of other different types. Like I have a coworker who's done like beer and wine, beverages, food. We've dabbled in chemical. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, we are a manufacturing consulting, or not manufacturing, mechanical consulting firm, and a lot of the principles that you use for manufacturing can be applied in other places. Like I've even done HVAC design, for example. Mm-hmm. Again, that's a fluid dynamics problem in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, a lot of people might not know, but you and your friend Elaine, it's Elaine, right?
It is Elaine.
So you and Elaine, you both run an Instagram/blog called Eng Girl Problems, and you come up with Eng Girl solutions to all of our Eng Girl problems.
Oh, I don't know if you come up with them, but we certainly try.
No, you do. I mean, like I was telling you earlier, you definitely solved the Eng Girl problem of Instagram, which I'm really impressed by. So would you be able to tell everyone what Eng Girl Problems is about, why you started it, why it's important? Yeah, I'll let you explain that.
Sure, I would love to. So we started Eng Girl Problems earlier this year, actually. It's been a few months and definitely a learning curve of Instagram in particular. And Eng Girl Problems started actually when we were in university. So Elaine started this private Facebook group on Facebook, and a lot of the female students in our undergrad program, it wasn't even in our year because Elaine is 2 years older than I am. We were all in this closed group, and we would jokingly, it all started with jokes. Like an example is that at one point our engineering building only had a single stall female bathroom, and the men's bathroom had stalls, but the women's bathroom was only like a single use. So we would like, when you're waiting in line for the girls' bathroom, or if there's say like a course in the building that has a lot more girls than say like a typical engineering course, which is less, there'd be a long line for the bathroom. So like a common post on Eng Girl Problems would be like, ugh, like waited in the bathroom line today for 15 minutes, like Eng Girl Problems.
Yeah. Or
like something silly. So that was always a thing that was there. And then last year, actually, after you started this, I started thinking about like, okay, what can we do as women in engineering, as women in STEM, like what can be our role, and what can we do in order to like push for progress and get the word out there and communicate about the problems that we are having in engineering? Like what's the productive model to do that? So I started thinking about it, and then Elaine and I kind of got together and we're like, you know what, like why don't we make this a blog platform? Because that way we can open up the conversation, essentially take what was our very like homey, great Facebook group and kind of expand it and include more people in the conversation. And like you said, what we're after is Eng Girl solutions. A big problem that engineering faces is not only a pipeline problem, but it's a retention problem. It's that women are getting into engineering, for example, but we're leaving. Like, why is that? And can we band together and come up with solutions for that? And another portion to it is it's not even even though we call it an Eng Girl problem, it's not just an Eng Girl problem, it's an everyone problem. Because when you're not finding that you're keeping all of your talent, like everyone's losing out in that case. So what we wanted to do was increase awareness, increase the conversation, still post about funny stuff about Eng Girl problems. Like when women's pants don't have big enough pockets, for example. Yeah,
that's a big problem.
It is a big problem. I can't fit my giant phone in my pocket, and I can't fit a tape measure either.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And you also have a book club.
We do. Yes, we've been reading Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes last month and this month. So this is actually only our second book, and we are trying to figure out how to properly run or how to most efficiently run an online book club. So if anyone has tips, please let us know.
I have a tip, but I'll tell you after the... This is me winking. I'll tell you after the call.
But yeah, so what we want to do is read books that are empowering, that start a conversation, that bring something of value to people's lives. And at the end of the day, they're books that we want to read, and we're like, oh, maybe we could talk about these to people.
Okay, and so who are the books for? Like, who is this book club for?
Anyone and everyone. mostly we look at like women in engineering, but it can also be women in science, women in tech, women in math, men in science, men in tech. Our third roommate, so Elaine and I are roommates. His name is Nick. He reads the books with us as well.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, and he gives feedback. So it's really anyone who wishes to join in. We don't have a particular, we don't discriminate to whoever would like to join our book club.
Okay, sweet. I actually told everyone watching in the stream, I actually told Liv that I'm going to read the next book with them in September. I just finished 2 books this month. I've never read 2 books in 1 month in my life, so I don't know what's wrong with me. But I have to take them back to the library, and I was actually just going to check online if they have the Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes, because then I'm going to have to try to find an English version in... Switzerland. I don't know how that's gonna work.
Have you booked it all? Just saying, audiobook not cheating. It has changed my life lately.
No. I right now I'm listening to, because I listen to so many podcasts. Right now I'm listening to How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's
nice.
It was written in like the 70s or whatever. So I've just been listening to that audiobook because it's one of those books where it's like you're really reading it to absorb, not to like how some people are like, oh, it's cheating. No, it's not cheating. I don't think so.
No. Oh my gosh. It's funny. I worked at a library in high school. I don't know if you remember that, but for some reason, up until lately, I used to have a really good reading book habit, like physical book. But then I got to university and there was just so much less time.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I lost my habit of actually picking up a book and reading. And I kind of got back into it now that I'm working, but recently I've been driving a lot to different manufacturing sites, which, as you can imagine, are not downtown. So sometimes they're a little bit further away from home. But I've been listening to audiobooks, and it has been a game changer. I'm actually reading again, even though it's not a physical book.
Yeah, and actually for me, the way it started was I had the Apple 3-month Apple Music trial.
Oh, nice.
It expired, and then I was like, well, what am I going to do now? So I just started listening to podcasts because I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to get Apple Music, and I just never got around to it. And then I started listening to so many podcasts, and now I'm listening to audiobooks, and yeah, I've been reading a lot of books, so just... I was
actually debating doing a post on, podcasts we love. Elaine and I listen to a lot of podcasts, so Stay tuned for that, and I might just pick your brain for it.
What are your favorite podcasts? Maybe some people will check them out.
Oh, yeah, sure. I love a podcast called Call Your Girlfriend. It is about 2 amazing women, Anne Friedman and Amina Toussaint, and they are long-distance besties, literally. One lives in New York, the other lives in Los Angeles, and they call each other, and they talk about the news and kind of the current going-ons in the world, and they also contrast them with, feminism and... different thoughts that they have, and intersectionality, and they're just so funny. So would recommend that one.
Okay.
I also actually, starting back up in September, is HBR, Harvard Business Review. They have a series called Women at Work. Listen to that one too. They started it last year. I think there's 6 episodes out right now, and they're starting up again because it was so popular. But they covered a lot the imposter syndrome, and I think they did mentorship for women. So a lot of really good research-based, women-focused podcasts. It's good. And then for story stuff, I like Planet Money. I like 99% Invisible. That one's really interesting. Really niche stories you would never hear about. Yeah, what do you listen to? I want to get something to write down.
So I don't know if this is going to be boring for people.
Yeah, everyone else could get back on topic.
Yeah, I can tell you afterwards. I just want to make sure, I don't know if people are going to be bored because I've already said mine before on my channel.
Okay. Then
yeah.
you can talk afterwards, no problem. We can get back to engineering if that's what people tuned into this live stream for.
How dare they not expect us to go off of topic? Oh, so demanding. No, I wanted to know, like, in terms of process engineering and chemical engineering, what do you think is, like, the coolest thing about your, like, field? Like, it could either be something really big about, like, how everyone comes together, or it could be something like something new in technology that you've read recently. But what do you, like, right now think is just the coolest thing about chemical/process engineering?
Ooh, okay. Well, I'm going to have to focus in a bit more on manufacturing since that's what I'm in right now.
Okay.
Honestly, I could watch a manufacturing production line run for ages. Like, I could pull up a chair and just sit there because I find it so interesting, especially like ice cream fillers. So like the very final product, when all the piping has come together and all the pumps have pushed everything in the right direction and you have everything coming together in like either an ice cream cone or an ice cream pint or an ice cream tub or different configurations of ice cream, an ice cream sandwich, and it all comes together and the ice cream gets extruded and like the cookies go on and like all of this just happens over and over again. I find it fascinating.
It sounds mesmerizing. Mesmerizing. I'm listening. I'm like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. You just honestly, I just stand there sometimes and I'm like, wow, like this is happening really fast.
Yeah,
and
I feel like. Oh, sorry.
No, go.
No, I was gonna say I feel like you can find those loops on YouTube of manufacturing processes, and yeah, I think I'm gonna look them up after this.
Yeah, I'm always a fan of like how it's made. I used to love that show, and I still do. Like sometimes I will just watch how it's made on YouTube.
Okay, yeah. So you wanted to say something about how it's made and how it's related to chemical engineering and how that's sort of like what was in your mind when you were pursuing chemical engineering?
Yeah, so I loved how it's made as a kid. Like I loved watching things come together and watching a process happen. Like you have your different steps, but in the end, they're all working towards the same end goal. I just love that. So I think that's really what drew me towards manufacturing and food manufacturing, because everyone knows the best episodes of how it's made are the food ones. Yeah, that definitely contributed. I don't know if that was the only inspiration for my career, but it was definitely something that I saw, and I was like, you know what, I could do that. And eventually, somehow I meandered my way in this direction, and I'm really happy with what I'm doing now.
Well, you know what you could do is you could email them and be like, hey, I can show you how this ice cream is made, and then you can be on the show. How about that?
That's a great idea.
Okay, when we're done this, you're going to write the email, you're going to invite me, you're going to pay for my flight. I'm kidding. So something else I wanted to know, like, what is the best advice you've ever gotten / advice that you would give to your younger self or someone that wants to study process engineering? So maybe that's 3 different types of advice, or it could be 1.
Okay, best advice I've ever gotten, advice to younger me, and process engineering.
Yeah.
It's actually funny because I'm putting out an article tomorrow called The Best Advice I've Gotten as a Junior Engineer.
Oh.
And it was actually from my boss, which I am probably going to send this link to afterwards. She was going to watch, but
okay.
I think she's not busy. But anyway, she's going to hear this and see it. Recently, spoiler alert for my article, or maybe this will entice people to check it out, but recently she told me, at the end of the day, if you can tell yourself that you've worked with honesty, you've worked with integrity, and you have done the best you can, then you can't be disappointed with the product that you put out at the end of the day or something that you've delivered. And that one really struck a chord for me, because those are 3 things that you have entire power over. You can be honest, and you can have integrity with what you do, and you can do your best, and that's all you can really ask of yourself, right?
Yeah,
So
no.
that's advice.
Yeah, no, but just adding on to that, that's exactly what, you have to learn in school, because sometimes you work so hard and just the grades aren't there, or you don't do well on an exam, and you can't mope about it and think, man, you can't just think about the past and mope about it, because you can't control that. You can just control how hard you work on the next exam. You can't control what the prof's going to put on the exam.
No, exactly. Yeah, you can only take that and be like, okay, if I'm not happy with this result, how can I change it for next time?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. Engineering especially, like you just have to accept what happened, and then all you can do is move forward. You can't change the past.
Yeah, you could be like, well, that ice cream was poisonous. Whatever.
Get him next time.
So that was best advice.
Okay, so do I still have to do the two other ones?
Yeah.
Okay. Best advice for earlier chemical engineer, process engineer, me. Pay more attention in heat transfer.
Okay.
Pay attention. But engineering's a team sport, which kind of goes back to like studying together. I know you've talked about this before, but I know at Western we really felt that engineering was a team sport, and you can achieve so much more together than you can individually. And I really tried to live by that in school, but I would tell younger me to like double down on that, because your friends can support you, and like they will be there for you when things don't go your way. So, and they will help you with tough assignments and homework.
Yeah. Okay. Very nice. Very good. And then the last thing I wanted to ask, I haven't even had to look at my notes. This is pretty impressive, but I have to look now. Okay, the last thing I wanted to know is, like, do you ever, what is next for you? Like, are you thinking that far ahead, or are you just like, I'm enjoying where I am, or are you thinking, do you want to stay in the manufacturing business? Do you want to stay, it sounds like you want to stay in manufacturing for sure. Do you want to stay, do you have any, I don't know, maybe it's like you're not thinking about it right now, but I'm just curious to know, do you think about the future, and do you have any future plans in terms of engineering?
Definitely. It's hard not to think about the future, but it's also tough to even think about what the future will bring, Like we were saying, until you try it, until you're a little bit closer, you have ideas, but you don't really know who will I be in X number of months. So I definitely know that I really like where I'm at right now. I really like manufacturing. I love a good process. I think ideally I would like to be at a point where I'm still learning.
Yeah.
We've talked about that. Before the call, we were saying that it's we like to be people who are learning, because that keeps you engaged. So I think that's my focus for the next little while. Keep learning.
Yeah, and that's definitely my focus too. Thanks so much, Liv. Thank you everyone in the live stream for joining us. I hope you really liked our discussion.
I hope you didn't get too annoyed by us going off topic about podcasts.
I could talk about podcasts so much, but I think they're all like, Jess, come on, please, just ask her a science question. You have this girl here. You have her here. We want to know what she has to say. Stop talking about podcasts. I'm like, oh, fine. No, but thank you so much, Liv, for being here. Thank you, everyone in the live stream. I have more live streams next week, so hopefully, you come in for those. And if you want to hear more from Liv and from Elaine and from Eng Girl Problems, and if you want to find more Eng Girl solutions, you can follow them on Instagram and on Twitter, and you have their handles linked below on their banner, exactly below her screen. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks, Liv.
Thanks, everyone.